I never planned to end up on a dirt road with a dead car battery, wearing heels and no signal on my phone. I was lost, cold, and desperate, until a quiet farmer in dusty jeans pulled over. He looked at me like I was nobody, but I was hiding everything. Hi, I'm sharing a story that changed how I see the world and myself. It's about one unexpected act of kindness and how it led to something no one could have predicted. If you've ever felt lost or judged, this one's for you. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more real-life stories with twists you won't see coming. And don't forget to hit the notification bell, because your next favorite story might be the next video. It started like any other hectic morning. I woke up late, spilled coffee on my blouse, and had to change twice before running out the door. I'm a city girl, born and bred, used to tall buildings, traffic noise, fast coffee, and even faster schedules. I don't drive much. Why would I when there's Uber at every corner and food delivery at the tap of a screen? But that day was different. I had a meeting, one that couldn't be rescheduled. It was with a major client in a small town about 2 hours out. So I borrowed a car and hit the road, already rushing and half-focused on my phone, trying to rehearse what I'd say when I got there. About halfway through the drive, the landscape started to change. Tall buildings turned into open fields, and my phone signal faded from 4 bars to 1. I laughed nervously to myself, thinking how out of place I must look on these winding back roads. Then, without warning, the car jerked slightly and slowed down. The dashboard lights blinked, and before I could fully process what was happening, the engine died. Just like that. I turned the key again and again. Nothing. Silence. Panic started to creep in. I checked my phone. 10% battery, no signal, no cars passing by. Just me, a dead car, and miles of empty roads stretching in both directions. I got out and looked around. My heels sank into the gravel. The wind tugged at my blazer, and suddenly the quiet wasn't peaceful. It was terrifying. I felt helpless, completely out of my element. I was going to be late, maybe even lose the deal. And worst of all, I had no idea what to do next. I had been standing there for maybe 20 minutes, arms crossed, pacing back and forth, hoping, wishing a car would pass by. Nothing, just birds, wind, and that sinking feeling in my stomach. Then I heard it, the faint rumble of an engine in the distance. I turned around, shielding my eyes from the sun, and there it was, a dusty old pickup truck crawling down the road. I waved both arms like a crazy person. Please stop, please stop. The truck pulled over a few feet ahead of me and the door creaked open. Out stepped a guy, maybe late 20s, early 30s. Worn-out jeans, flannel shirt with the sleeves rolled up, work boots covered in dirt. He had a cap pulled low over his messy hair, and he walked with the kind of slow, steady confidence of someone who belonged out here. "You all right?" he asked, his voice low and kind of rough but not unfriendly. "My car died. Battery, I think," I said, trying to sound calm, but probably looking like I was on the verge of tears. He nodded and popped his truck's hood without saying much more, grabbed jumper cables and walked over like he'd done this 1,000 times. I felt so out of place, like I'd just dropped in from another planet. I tried to help, but honestly, I had no clue what I was doing. Within minutes, he had my hood up and the cables connected. Still didn't say much, just worked. Like helping people was part of his day. When I offered him money, he actually laughed a little and said, "Nah, you don't owe me anything, just doing what neighbours do." Neighbours. I hadn't heard that word in a long time, and it stayed with me. While he worked on the car, I stood off to the side, arms crossed, feeling completely useless. I mean, what was I supposed to do, offer moral support? I didn't even know where the battery was until he pointed to it. He didn't talk much, but not in a rude way. He just seemed focused, calm, like someone used to fixing things on his own. At one point, I tried to make conversation. "You do this often?" I asked, half laughing, hoping to break the silence. He glanced at me, smiled faintly, and said, Pretty much every tractor on our farm has its mood swings. I smiled, but I didn't really know what to say. I mean, tractors. I didn't even know what kind of farm he meant. I suddenly felt so obvious. City girl, expensive watch, heels in the mud. He didn't look at me like I was special or impressive or even annoying. Just another person who needed help. When the car finally started, I felt a wave of relief wash over me. I thanked him again and reached into my purse for cash. He shook his head firmly. "No, really, keep it." "But you helped me. Let me give you something." He looked me in the eyes and said, "Helping someone shouldn't cost anything." And that's when it hit me. He had no idea who I was. No clue I worked for a huge development company. No idea I made decisions that impacted hundreds of people. He just saw a woman stuck on the road. It felt weird, not being recognized, not being important. And, strangely, I kind of liked it. We talked for a few more minutes, nothing deep, just small talk, but for some reason I didn't want to drive away just yet. As the car ran idle, I leaned back against the door and just stayed there. I don't know why. Maybe I was curious about him, or maybe I just wasn't ready to dive back into the world of boardrooms and phone calls. So I asked him, "You from around here?" He nodded, glancing at the fields across the road. "Born and raised, this whole area's been in my family for generations. I run a small farm now." There was a quiet pride in his voice. Not bragging, just truth. He told me about his farm, crops, livestock, seasons, and how everything depended on the weather and a bit of luck. It sounded so different from my world, where everything was scheduled down to the minute and profits were everything. Then he mentioned his little sister, said he was raising her on his own since their parents passed a few years ago. I wasn't expecting that. His face changed when he talked about her. Softened. You could tell he was trying to hold everything together for her sake. Something about that moment made me see him differently. He wasn't just the guy who jumped my car. He was someone carrying a lot on his shoulders, but still taking time to help a stranger. I found myself opening up too, though not fully. I told him I worked in real estate and development, but I left out the company name. I left out the part where we were scouting land in this area. I don't know why I kept that to myself. Maybe I was afraid of how he'd look at me if he knew. We talked for almost half an hour, standing on that dusty road like old friends. And somewhere in that conversation, I started to feel something shift inside me. After we talked for a while, I finally got back into my car. He closed the hood, gave me a small wave, and told me to drive safe. I thanked him, again, and drove off, watching him in the rearview mirror until he disappeared around the curve. But as I made my way back to the main road, something gnawed at me. A strange kind of guilt. I couldn't stop thinking about him. His calm voice, how he talked about his sister, how he didn't want anything in return. He had this quiet strength I wasn't used to, and something about that felt rare. I got to my meeting. It was in a polished office building 2 towns over, all glass windows and chrome furniture. I stepped into the conference room, back in work mode, presenting the proposal I'd memorized. The project was simple: buy out a large stretch of farmland, develop luxury homes, turn a profit, the usual. But when the map slid across the table and I looked down, my heart dropped. I recognized it instantly. That road, that field, his land. It couldn't be a coincidence. I asked the lead manager quietly, "Do we have the owner's name?" He replied without hesitation, "Yeah. Been trying to get him to sell for months. Young guy, tough as nails. He's the last one holding out." I didn't say anything, but my chest tightened. He had no idea who I was. I didn't give my full name, didn't mention the company. He just thought I was some random city girl with car trouble. But now I knew. I was part of the reason he was struggling. My company was pressuring him, planning to tear up his family's land, sell off his future piece by piece. And I was smack in the middle of it. For the first time in a long while, I didn't feel proud of my job. I didn't feel powerful or successful. I felt wrong. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying our conversation, the look in his eyes, the way he talked about home like it was sacred. I had a choice to make, and I wasn't sure I could live with myself if I chose wrong. A few days passed, but I couldn't get him, or that land, out of my head. Every time I opened my laptop, his name was there on the documents. Every time someone in the office brought up the holdout farmer, I felt like I was sinking deeper into something I never meant to be part of. I knew what I had to do, I just didn't know how to do it. So I drove back. This time I didn't wear heels. I didn't bother with makeup or a polished look. I just needed to talk to him, not as the woman behind a development deal, but as the girl he met on the side of the road. When I pulled up near his farm, I spotted him near the barn, stacking hay like it was nothing. He looked surprised when he saw me. "You again?" he said, wiping his hands on his jeans. "Yeah," I said, awkwardly stepping out. "I needed to tell you something, and I owe you an apology." He looked at me, cautious now, not rude, just guarded. "I wasn't completely honest with you," I admitted. "I work for a real estate company, a big one, the one that's been trying to buy your land." He didn't say anything, just stared. I could see the shift in his eyes, the hurt, the disappointment. "I didn't mean to trick you," I said quickly. "I didn't know it was your land until after we talked, and when I found out, I couldn't stop thinking about it." He stayed silent for a while, then said quietly, "So you're the reason they keep knocking?" "No," I said. "I was, but not anymore." That's when I told him everything, about the deal, about the pressure from my company, about how he made me see things differently. I told him I didn't want to be part of a plan that would tear apart what little good was left in the world. He didn't forgive me right away, and honestly, I didn't expect him to. Trust isn't something you can glue back together with just words. But he listened, and before I left that day, he said, "You're not what I expected." Neither was he. After that conversation, everything felt different. I went back to the city, but I wasn't the same. The glass buildings, the boardroom meetings, the numbers on the screen, they all felt hollow. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was part of something that destroyed lives quietly, legally, profitably. So I did what I never imagined I'd do. I pushed back. I scheduled a meeting with my boss, laid out what I knew. I told him the truth about the land, how it wasn't just dirt to be bought and paved over. It was someone's history, someone's future. I told him about the farmer, the sister he was raising, the way that land had been in his family for generations. He didn't exactly cheer. He rolled his eyes, called it sentimental nonsense. But I didn't back down. I had evidence too. I dug into the zoning, found legal loopholes, and started building a case. If we moved forward too fast, we'd risk lawsuits and public backlash. That was the angle that finally made them listen. For once, I used everything I knew, my knowledge, my voice, my position, to protect something instead of exploiting it. Meanwhile, I kept in touch with him, slowly, carefully. At first, it was just text messages about the case, then quick phone calls. But over time, those calls turned into real conversations about life, about regret, about second chances. He didn't fully trust me yet, and I didn't blame him. But he saw that I was trying, not just for him, but for myself too. It took months of negotiations, but eventually the deal was dropped. The company backed off. The land stayed in his name. The farm remained his. He told me later that it was the first time in years he could breathe easy. As for me, I stopped seeing success as just a bigger paycheck or a fancier office. I started seeing it as the ability to sleep at night, knowing I stood for something real. And strangely, I felt closer to him through all of it. We came from different worlds, sure, but something about our paths crossing, it felt like it was meant to happen. Sometimes saving someone else ends up saving you too. Even after the deal was shut down, I kept going back to that little town. Not for business, not for a meeting, just to breathe. There was something about the quiet that healed me. The fresh air, the slower pace, the way people waved when you drove by. It was a world I didn't know I needed. At first, I told myself I was just checking in, making sure the land stayed protected, making sure the paperwork held up. But truthfully, I just wanted to see him. He never made a big deal about it, never said much when I showed up. Sometimes I'd help carry feed buckets or sit on the porch with his sister while he worked. I didn't wear suits anymore. I wore jeans, boots, and started learning things I never thought I'd care about. Weather patterns, soil quality, when to plant, when to harvest. One day he looked at me while we were fixing a broken fence and said, "You ever think about staying?" I laughed at first. Me, the city girl. But then I realized I already was, not full-time. I still had a place back in the city, still kept a few clients. But my heart, it was already here. We never called it love, not right away. It didn't need a label. It was something quieter than that. Something slow and honest and deeply real. His sister grew to like me too. We'd bake together, read, and paint silly signs for the farm stand. It felt like family, something I hadn't felt in years. I never planned for any of this. I thought I knew what my life would look like. Corner office, big promotions, endless city lights. But a dead battery and a dusty pickup changed everything. It turns out what I was really looking for wasn't more power, or more money, or more recognition. It was peace. It was purpose. It was being seen, not for who I worked for, but for who I actually was. And he saw me before I ever told him a thing. Funny how the worst days can lead to the best beginnings, all because someone stopped to help, without knowing who I really was, without expecting anything in return, just kindness. And maybe that's where all good stories really begin. Sometimes a dead car battery can lead you to exactly where you were meant to be. This wasn't just about helping a stranger, it was about finding myself again and learning that titles don't matter as much as kindness. If this story moved you, drop a comment below. Have you ever been saved by a stranger? Or been one? Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, because you never know which story could change your life next. Thanks for watching.